and welcome to another episode of Gossip Finance, where I'm your host, Alasius Inger.
I'm Duncan Sandlin. How's everybody doing today? How are you, Lacey?
I am fabulous. I can't wait to get into it today. We've got a few sort of, different things today than
Yeah,
than the usual.
yeah, we're gonna do some new stuff. So I guess Trump pissed off the United States Army, which is kind of a
I'm
new one.
shocked.
Yep. Fox is going racist. Harrison Walsh did an interview with CNN, which still pisses off Fox News. Uh, let's see. Well, Tim Walz also did the speech at the IAFF, which is the firefighters union, and JD Vance did the speech earlier and bombed. And then we got, of course, Lauren Boebert's in trouble with her new challenger, who she's debating in Colorado. So we'll cover all that today. But first, I wanted to start off on this. So here in Oregon, Fred Meyer, the workers there are on strike here in the Portland area.
All right, for the East Coast, let me pop in here. Fred Meyer on the West Coast, big, huge supermarket chain that we do not have on the East Coast here,
Right.
but it already on its own is one of the biggest ones on the West Coast.
Yeah, it's huge. And then
Right.
they also sell like clothes and hardware and stuff like that. Fred Meyer's also has now gasoline and whatnot that they sell too, so they have gas stations. So Fred Meyer used to be kind of a local chain here in the West Coast. It started in Portland. It was kind of geared towards they wanted to have like really good customer service. They wanted to be like sort of the Nordstroms of grocery shopping kind of thing. That's kind of
To a degree, they've succeeded
they
with
did.
with that to a certain degree. They have.
Yeah, in the past they did. Then Kroger bought them out, like 15, 20 years ago, something like that. And Kroger, I'm sure you guys on the East Coast know too, Kroger is probably the biggest grocery chain in America. They also own QVC, they own Hagen, and a bunch of others. Well, Kroger changed it. It's changed quite a bit. It's not really about the customer service stuff anymore. But recently, the workers at the Fred Meyer through the local union, because Fred Meyer's always had a union, decided to go on strike. And it's kind of an interesting story because jumping into it, Fred Meyer workers go on strike in Portland, Oregon. So the union in the greater Portland area began a strike over unfair practices against the grocery chain Wednesday morning. The strike, which could last through Labor Day weekend, impacts 28 stores. Unionized workers authorized the strike in a vote earlier this month. It was an overwhelming vote to multiple allegations of unfair labor practices committed by the grocer, according to the United Food and Commercial Workers. The local union said about 4,500 Fred Meyer workers are impacted. The strike unfolds against the backdrop of a federal court hearing about the Federal Trade Commission's efforts to block Kroger's planned merger with Albertsons. This is what it really is about, which started Monday, as well as separate contract negotiations between UFCW, Local 555, and Albertsons. Okay, so just the strike follows numerous bargaining attempts, which began in late July between the local union and Kroger, Fred Meyer, and QVC. So that's all one company under Kroger. A union member wrote 2 weeks ago, overwhelmingly approved the strike. The UOP strike is crucial to force Fred Meyer to comply with their obligations as an employer to their employees. Our members are united in demanding fair treatment, which can only be reached if Fred Meyer actually stands behind its public statements and is willing to fulfill all their obligations and legal requirements. So, and then this is just the guy, the president of Fred Meyer, saying, "Oh, they have a right to strike and blah blah blah," but I don't care. Let's see. The union said Fred Meyer proposal during the bargaining meeting on April 19th included wage increases and a one-time bonus for workers, but claimed the grocer would negatively impact the employees' health care plan. So what they offered is this. It's not in this story, but they offered, Fred Meyer said, okay, we'll offer $3.50 an hour increase in wages over the next 3 years. But as part of that, we're going to reduce your health care so we can save costs on that. So we're not really paying you that much more because we're reducing what our out-of-pocket is for health care. So it was kind of a one hand to the other kind of thing, right? 6 in one hand, half a dozen in another kind of bullshit. They had to do something in good faith. Part of that is because the pressure is coming because of this merger with Albertsons. If they merge with Albertsons, they will basically have a monopoly on the West Coast for groceries. which means they'll be able to get to set a lot of prices, and they'll get to set what the standard wages are for grocery workers. Right? So the union initially was like, look, we're okay with this, but we need to get some long-term contract that guarantees cost of living increase and all that shit. Fred Meyer dragged their feet. Well, Fred Meyer, Kroger dragged their feet, right? But here's the thing. So this is the deal with the Albertsons merger. So inside the legal battle over Kroger and Albertsons and the fate of the biggest supermarket merger in history. This is gigantic, okay? So Kroger and Albertsons are facing off against the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, in court over the proposed $24.6 billion merger. The FTC argues the merger would reduce competition and raise grocery prices. Fucking would. The fate of the biggest supermarket merger in U.S. history could come down to a federal judge's decision. Okay, so the fate of the largest supermarket merger in U.S. history hangs in the balance as an ongoing 3-week hearing unfolds inside an Oregon federal courtroom. Supermarket giants Kroger and Albertsons are duking it out in court against regulators who are trying to block the company's proposed $24.6 billion merger over antitrust concerns. For those of you who don't know, antitrust is basically the laws we put into place to stop companies from forming monopolies. To make sure capitalism works, right?
And it protects us. So if we want to distill it down to what it literally means for you and me every day, right, is it protects us against things like, in this case, them getting to set the wages for workers in that industry and the prices for us,
right,
when we're going to the supermarket. People have already been complaining. You know, we talk so much, people say this, that, inflation, whatever. Like, okay, this would be a big deal because they would get to set the prices, they would get to jack the prices, and there would be a limited number of places you could go to do any better.
Right. Well, just to give you guys a concept, and we'll get into this a little bit more too later in a minute, but so Kroger, during the pandemic, after the post-pandemic, when they jacked up the prices, price gouged, Kroger made a ton of money. Their CEO, his pay increased by 18.5% over 2 years. So almost a 20% pay increase in 2 years. Raise your hand if you've gotten that, ever. No, it doesn't happen.
I can think of exactly 0 times I've gotten an increase like that in that shorter span of time.
And I'm not talking about getting a new, better job or higher paying job. I'm talking about for the same job that you've been doing. It doesn't happen. But it does happen at the executive level. Executives at Fred Meyer and at Kroger, though, also saw their wages increase by over 10% in the last 2 years. But employees haven't seen shit. And furthermore,
the employees haven't seen anything, and the customers that are coming in are paying more.
Right.
So we're paying more, and the employee standing in front of us is not doing better either.
Right.
It screws everybody except the very few people at the very top.
Well, and furthermore, the only reason they're paying lower, we'll get to that, the only reason there are employees there is because the union requires them to have X number of employees there. Otherwise, Kroger wouldn't do that. They do what Walmart does. They'd skeleton crew staff it, pay those people poverty wages, and that would be it. But the problem is if you have a monopoly, it's not just that they can set the wages and the prices. It's a domino effect, because what happens if they screw up or they just understaff or don't do the basics to get food on the shelves, right? Well, then there's a higher demand for food because they fucked up the supply, and there's nobody else doing it. There's no competition to drive them to actually do it, right? So now the prices have gone up. There's scarcity. What's the incentive for them to actually supply their customer when you have to go to them, right? So this is scary in the sense of, do you really want to live in a place where one company has control over whether or not you can get food and toilet paper? I mean, this is like the things you're trying to avoid in capitalism because it's not capitalistic. It's oligarchical, right? So the change,
it essentially eliminates competition. It doesn't create competition, which should be better for the consumer. It eliminates it,
right,
which is dangerous on the consumer end.
Right. So their argument here in the court, which I don't think is going to float, but we'll see. The chains argue that Kroger's acquisition of Albertsons would boost competition with behemoth retail rivals like Walmart, Costco, and Amazon, while regulators from the Federal Trade Commission alleged the opposite, saying the deal is actually anti-competitive and would result in higher grocery prices for millions of Americans as well as lower wages for workers. Exactly what we were just talking about, because they'd have basically a monopoly. Both sides are making their case before the U.S. District Judge Adrienne Nelson, who will ultimately decide at the end of the hearing next month whether to approve FTC's request for a preliminary injunction against the merger. So it doesn't necessarily stop the merger, but it'll put an injunction to prevent it from going forward. Already this week, Kroger executives' internal email about price hikes for eggs and milk beyond the added cost from inflation has drawn scrutiny in the courtroom. So they were already talking about how can we jack up the price. Just this week, even more. How much could we price gouge more? And this is after Kroger executives have already seen a huge pay increase from doing that. So they want to keep doing it, right? And the shareholders love it because they're making a ton of money. This cherry-picked email covers a specific period and does not reflect Kroger's decades-long business model to lower prices for customers by reducing its margins. The Kroger spokesman told Business Insider in the statement, "What's missing is the fact that Kroger's retail prices include the cost to run a grocery store, including labor, transportation, advertising, and other costs. Many of these costs have significantly increased since 2020. Kroger's pricing decisions are impacted by factors beyond inflation." I haven't had a chance to go through their balance and income statements, but we'll do that at some point here. If the judge overseeing the hearing ultimately rules in favor of the FTC, the deal between Kroger and Albertsons could end up torpedoed completely. Well, that'd be great. A temporary injunction would put the merger on ice as the FTC holds a separate in-house proceeding of the deal before an administrative law judge. So that's what's going on there. Why is the union strike happening? Because if this doesn't happen and they do get the merger and the union doesn't have a contract prior to the merger, they're not going to get a contract, a favorable contract. Because why would they? Where else are your employees going to go?
Right.
There's nowhere else to go. Oh, they could go to QVC, also owned by Kroger. They could go to Hagen, also owned by Kroger. Where are they going to go? Safeway?
And there's a few of them remaining. Safeway, there's Whole Foods, some other smaller chains out on the West Coast, New Seasons, but they can't absorb all those employees.
No, they can't. So here, I just wanted to show you this. So I got this from ZipRecruiter. I just wanted to get a sense of what the pay was like for these jobs. I did retail grocery to get through college, but that was years ago. So just to get a sense of this, so right now, supermarket salary, this is ZipRecruiter. This is their estimate from what's reported. So part of this strike, too, is this. Just a side note this. Fred Meyer got sued in 2022 for not paying employees. They said it was an error in their payroll system. They've had multiple suits since then that they've settled. One was for like $2.5 million. But like employees just not getting paid what they're owed. Right? And then they've had other complaints and they're not releasing their data on the employee complaints that are still pending that they haven't looked into really, and two, a lot of their pay scale data. So it's hard to tell what they're paying because they're supposed to release that information to the union, and it's supposed to be public for the union so the union can negotiate without being blind, right? But they're not doing that right now. They're withholding that information probably because it's not good. And it doesn't help them. They want to wait till after the merger. So supermarket salary and overhead. This is general supermarkets right now. They're estimating about $24 an hour because it factors in on the average. But median was going to be around 20 to 23. So probably 22, 21, 22. It would probably be closer to the median. The average is 24 because you got to factor in people that are making up to 46. Now, just to give you a sense, 46 is 92,000 a year, and that's 1% of the jobs, less than 1%.
So that's probably management and
high
not even store level management, like the regional, like upper level management, not like a store manager.
Well, some store managers are probably making close to 100, I bet, or a little over. But yeah, that's kind of rarity. $24 an hour is $48,000 a year. U.S. median is 55, so even the average is below the U.S. median income. So grocery store workers make less than median income. And that's if we're assuming the average, and that's not that much less. Well, I was like, okay, how does Fred Meyer compare? Once again, there's not a lot of data. So I went to Indeed because they took sort of the general data from the stores. And so bakery clerk is about 1623. So these are just people reporting their salaries. So it might be a little higher, or a little lower than this. It's kind of hard to tell. It's not going to be that much higher or lower. But
Got to be close.
yeah, it's got to be within like $1 or two. Um, Grocery Associate is making about 1866. So if we figure that, and the average is 24, 23, 24, they're 450, 550 off the mark. So they're between probably $7,000 and $11,000 a year off the average, beneath the average.
And that's a huge difference.
That's
That's a
gigantic.
huge difference.
That's like almost $1,000 a month. 500 to $1,000 a month. That's groceries.
Right. You change my
Ironically.
salary by $1,000 a month in either direction, and it makes a huge difference.
Oh,
So being off by that amount is
A lot.
astronomical.
So this $3.50 an hour raise we're promising over the next 3 years doesn't even get us to average. And we're going to reduce your health benefits in the process. So it's kind of a bullshit offer. They made an offer because I think they felt like they had to, so they wouldn't look like total dicks, right? But they made an offer that they knew they weren't going to take. Because they're still, for them, they're waiting. We just got to stall this out till the end of the month and hopefully win this hearing. And if we win this hearing, then we're merging with Albertsons and we held all the cards. And the union can't really do much. And part of what's revealing is when we go back to that article about the merger, as their argument was, it's not fair because we want to compete with companies like Walmart and Amazon. Walmart, Costco, and Amazon. Costco not so much, but Walmart and Amazon, companies that are notorious for underpaying and abusing their workers.
Right.
But we want to compete with them. So to do that, you're saying we got to become like them, which is kind of what they're trying to do here.
Right. They're not trying to raise the standard.
No.
They're trying to lower themselves
Under the bar.
Yeah, below the bar. Yes,
Yeah.
how low can you go? They're playing limbo with people's lives.
But that's what's sort of going on. My guess is right now that's what they're doing, is they're just trying to stall out until, and hopefully win this hearing, and then they'll negotiate and they'll offer some piddly nothing to the union. Because the union won't really have anywhere to go. Who else are they going to bargain or negotiate with? But we'll try to get somebody from the union to come on and talk to us, because that would be interesting to see what we can find out. And we'll contact Fred Meyer and see what's going on with them. They probably won't answer us though. Historically, businesses don't like to answer us. So.
That's true.
So anyway, but yeah, we'll keep you posted on that going forward. But I thought that was an interesting story because it gives you a good sense of how capitalism is kind of screwed up. Because we create this scenario where, yeah, Amazon and Walmart now have monopolies. They underpay their employees. Walmart's notorious for paying poverty wages. And the first thing you learn in training at Amazon, or not Amazon, Walmart, is how to apply for food stamps. Because you're immediately going to qualify because they don't pay you enough. So, in fact, your tax dollars are paying for a lot of Amazon's workers. You're subsidizing their employees. And I'll bet you Kroger...
Wait, are you talking about Amazon or Walmart? Because you said Walmart first and then you said Amazon.
Walmart.
Okay.
Amazon pays above that, but Amazon's got other issues where they just overwork their employees and they're abusive to their employees. They have their employees on schedules. So, like, you can't even take a bathroom break. So people are, like, peeing in bottles or wetting themselves on the floor because they have to meet certain quotas. I mean, it's ridiculous at Amazon. And so Kroger's basically saying, we need to be like that if we want to compete. And they're not entirely wrong. But the problem is then, yeah, the workers all get fucked. So really it comes down to, does the government step up and do something? which is, we'll get
Right.
into a little bit of that later. So this election is going to make a big difference on if you're a working class person, you work for your money like we do. It's going to make a big difference whether or not it's Donald Trump or Kamala Harris, or if it's going to be a Republican Senate or a Democratic Senate. It's going to make a big difference on your wallet and your ability to survive. So it's important to pay attention. So we'll cover more of that later. But jumping into the news, we had to jump in with this because this was the big story this week. So Trump and Vance are having a hard time hitting Harris and Walz. Trump and Vance are still getting they're weird. They don't really know what they're talking about. They're yo-yoing back and forth on abortion, where they're all for banning abortion, and now they realize, oh, that's politically not good, so we got to sort of walk that back. And then, of course, then they got yelled at by the evangelicals, so then they walked it forward again. So they're trying to do this balancing act, and it's not working. So Trump thinks he's got something. Harris was vice president during the withdrawal in Afghanistan, and 13 of our service members died during that withdrawal. It was a bad withdrawal, and she was the VP when it happened. And I'll get into a little bit why that happened. So Trump did this wreath-laying ceremony at Arlington, and they invited Kamala Harris to show up. But he turned it into a photo op at Arlington National Cemetery, where we bury our troops, especially troops that died in battle. And he did a photo op at the graves of dead troops, which is illegal. We're not real traditionalists. The U.S. is pretty laid back about a lot of shit. We're not like England. But Arlington Cemetery doing a photo op over our dead veterans? It's something that we take pretty fucking seriously. So here's Trump doing it. The Army had to rebuke him for it. But we'll just watch a little bit of this clip, because this is fucking insane to me that you would do that. It's how little he cares about soldiers or thinks of them.
Or former President Donald Trump explicitly, but it's also very clear to what it's referring. Here is a part of this statement. Let me read this to you. Participants in the August 26th ceremony and subsequent Section 60 visit were made aware of federal laws, Army regulations, and DoD policies which clearly prohibit political activities. An Arlington National Cemetery employee who attempted to ensure adherence to these rules was abruptly pushed aside. ANC is a national shrine to the honored dead of the armed forces, and its dedicated staff will continue to ensure public ceremonies are conducted with dignity and respect. In that statement, the Army basically says the visit as it was carried out in Section 60, which is where fallen service members from Iraq and Afghanistan are buried, was a violation of federal law. That law explicitly states memorial services and ceremonies at Army National Military Cemeteries will not include partisan political activities. That's where they say the visit violated federal law. But afterwards, a member of the Trump campaign also suggested the Arlington employee with which this altercation happened was, quote, a despicable individual, and someone even suggested that she might have mental health issues. Here, the Army stood by their employee, praising her professionalism and saying it's an incredibly important and sacred job she has at Arlington National Cemetery. Once again, Manu, an incredible statement in this rebuke of the campaign and, of course, standing up for the employee involved in it.
All right, so the Army... If the Army is writing a letter to rebuke you and you're a politician, the Army tries to stay completely apolitical. All of our military branches do. They try not to get involved in that at all. They don't ever want to do that. So if they're writing a letter to rebuke you, you really fucked up. And this is a big deal. So they got him, you saw him trying to put the flowers down, but he's too fat to bend over. And then he's got pictures of him giving the thumbs up over the gravestones of guys who died in combat. Smiling.
You're like, okay, guy.
Yeah. It was really tacky shit. On top of the facts, the employee there was trying to tell them, you're in violation of the rule of Section 60. You can't be doing photo ops for political reasons at Arlington Cemetery. Right? Because... I'll tell you why, because it's tacky in the sense of, look, let's say you serve your country, and you're doing it because you believe in the country, it's an honorable thing to do, right? Well, now you can know that if you do that and you die in battle, that we're not going to honor you, we're going to use you as a political prop, or your grave as a political prop going forward. Congratulations, thanks for dying for us, dipshit. That's what Donald Trump
Right.
just did. And it looks bad on the military. It looks bad on the country. Like, we don't give a shit. Like, you're just cannon fodder. We don't really actually respect what you do. And Trump doesn't. That's why he did it. He doesn't have a clue. But the employee came in. She tried to stop him. They literally shoved her out of the way. And then later on, she filed a complaint. She didn't press charges, but she filed a complaint. And they said, well, she was really rude and she probably has some mental problem. That's what they said about the woman who works at Arlington. And the Army's like, no, she was being professional. You guys were being dicks. And so they're standing behind their employee. But that was, I mean, just horrific shit. But the whole thing about this, just to sum it up for the history, so back in 2020, while Trump was still president, right? We'd been in Afghanistan for, God, what, 18 years, 17 years at that point? And every president before kind of kicked it down the road. Obama kind of kicked it down the road. Bush kicked it down the road. Because it was going to be a nightmare. Because basically Afghanistan is not a country in the heightened sense. It's mostly 6 or 7 warring tribes. And the biggest one, the one that's the most powerful, is the Taliban. And the reason they're the most powerful is because we armed them and trained them in the 80s to fight the Soviets. And so the Taliban, who also is enemies of the United States now, right, who did 9/11, they were going to take over. And so Trump went in and said, look, guys, you can take over, we'll get out of Afghanistan, right? We'll bail out, you can take over, and the whole country can be yours. But you got to give me like 12 months or 14 months, whatever it is, with no incidents or conflicts or anything like that. Because he was running for election, he didn't want any of that, right? So he's basically saying, I'll give you Afghanistan if you just guys don't cause any problems until after I win the election. And then I'll give it to you. Well, he lost the election, right? And he'd already kind of made that deal with Afghanistan, with the Taliban. And Biden just said, you know what, fuck it, I'll take the PR hit. We need to get out of Afghanistan anyway. And no matter what we do, it's going to suck. And you're going to be the bad guy. There's just no way to win that. You either stay indefinitely in a country that doesn't want you there, or you leave and you hand it over to a terrorist organization. There just really wasn't anything else you could do as far as options go. So Biden just said, fuck it, we'll get out. And they did. And unfortunately, 13 guys did die in that process. But how many more of our troops would have died had we stayed in for the last 4 years? 3.5 years.
Oh, I mean, who knows? Yeah.
Yeah, dozens more. So he actually probably saved lives by doing it this way and taking the PR hit. And he's never really recovered from that. So Trump's idea was, oh, we'll go do a wreath-laying ceremony for these 13 guys that died, who basically died because of the way I set this up. Me, Donald Trump. But the American people don't know that. And I haven't given a shit about him until now because I'm losing in the polls. So I'm going to now do this big public wreath-laying ceremony and photo op thing over these guys' graves to use them as political props, because what I'm going to do is say Kamala was the one who screwed this whole thing up, when it really didn't have a whole lot to do with her. This was Biden's decision to keep Trump's promise that Trump kind of set him up, and he knew it.
So I would not expect Trump, or, I mean, even Biden for that matter, I wouldn't expect one individual to, like, just happen to know that it was illegal to do this. But when you have a staff of that many people working for you and setting up your various PR situations, you would think that they would do their homework on something and find out that you can't actually do that.
Well,
so either nobody bothered, or they informed him and he said, I don't care. Either
oh, he informed him and he said, I don't care. So what happens is...
Either way, that's not good. Whether he's just too stupid or doesn't care are both they're both bad looks.
He doesn't care because he got notified at least twice. Because once when they said, hey, we're going to come to Arlington and do a thing, they would have sent him a notification saying, oh, by the way, remember, you can't do political photo ops here. It's part of Article 60. It's against the law. You cannot do that. He would have been notified. Then,
I'm sure.
When he got there, started doing the photo op, the employee ran out there and said, hey, you guys can't do this. And they shoved her out of the way.
Yeah.
Maybe we should have Marines guard Arlington and just take a shot at politicians who try to do that.
Just pick them off one by one.
Yeah. Trump likes North Korea. They do shit like that in North Korea. Come on. Yeah. Fucking douchebag. Anyway, just a horrible thing. But here's the deal. It's so stupid because, look, most Americans don't know anything about that. About the Afghan withdrawal or any of that shit. Right? They don't know that 13 people died. Most of them don't really care. I mean, it's not something that affects you day to day. But the thing about it, too, is those of us who, like me, who do know about it, also probably know the history behind it, know that really this is Trump's fuck up, and Biden just took the out. Because it was the only smart option left on the table, and even then it was a bad option. So, anyway, I don't think it's going to work for Trump. I think this has just made it a worse firestorm, because now he's the guy dancing on the graves of our dead soldiers. Doing photo ops and smiling, giving thumbs up over a corpse of somebody who died in combat. I mean, he's gloating over it like it's a deer he shot. One of our troops. It's just fucked up. It's just fucked up. I don't have a segue, so I'm just going to move on. I'm just going to give up.
You weren't even going to try for a segue for that.
I wasn't even going to try. Because we got him. So, they're struggling so hard to tag something. Well, no, there is a segue. Trump is trying to tag Kamala. Everybody else on Fox is trying to tag her for something. They're trying to find something that'll stick to make her unlikable. Because her poll numbers keep going up and up and up. So they're trying so hard. So Maria Bartiromo, who's on Fox Business, who went from being when she was younger, a pretty good financial journalist, to just being a total right-wing nut job. She pulls out kind of an old one called the Great Replacement Theory, and she's got a guy on here to back her up with it. For those of you who don't know, the Great Replacement Theory, I can't remember, I think it was French initially, but the concept was they're going to bring in a bunch of brown people from over the border to replace all the whiteys. Well, and they're going to replace us because all the brown people will vote, and then the white people will be subjugated by the brown people from like Mexico and Venezuela or something. That's kind of the Great Replacement Theory.
Oh, brother. Okay.
I know. It's super racist, stupid shit.
No, but they're not weird at all. Nope, not weird.
But it's a conspiracy theory that this is the whole plan, right? That the Democrats have. But who's really running it? The Jews. It's always the Jews that are trying to bring in the brownies to conquer the whites. No, I'm not fucking with you. This is the theory.
Oh, God, really? Okay.
I'm not fucking with
go.
you. And they're going to rip it back up. Here it is.
To fly all of these illegal migrants into America, and they want to restart this program right now with all of the migrant crime underway and all of the implications for all of these illegals in this country.
Their policy is an open border. Their policy is to get as many illegal immigrants into the nation as fast as possible. An open southern border, flying directly into the interior, busing illegal immigrants into blue cities in the interior. It's all the same program, Maria. This is the policy. Now, it's schizophrenic.
Why?
And trying to buy votes for the student loan forgiveness program, and here they are worsening their position, and they know it, and they don't care. Flying illegal immigrants into the interior of the United States. They're schizophrenic. They're desperate. That's what this tells me.
Well, what's the rush?
The rush is, we used to think that, yes, 5 years, 7 years, illegal immigrants would be voters. Now we know they're doing it in real time. This is what concerns me. And to Secretary Pompeo's...
Okay.
Okay, let's just stop right there. A, they don't get to vote. B, what on earth does it have to do with student loans? Like, just throwing that in there. And he keeps saying the word schizophrenic, and it makes absolutely no sense in this context at all.
It's actually schizophrenic how he's doing that. Because he's going, like you said, he's going back and forth.
If anything, right?
On 3 different things. First off, if you're an illegal immigrant, and let's just be fair here, that just means you came to this country and you overstayed your visa, or you crossed the border without checking in at a port of entry. Because you can check in at a port of entry and ask for asylum. Anybody can do that, right? Well, unless you're a citizen. You can't. I mean, you're already here. But anybody from other countries can do that. You can check in at a port of entry, any border crossing area, and say, hey, look, I'm asking for asylum. People do it every day. And then you get a court date and all that. So we're talking about people that most of them came in and overstayed their green cards. That's like most, illegal immigrants, if you call them that. They're really just in past their dates. What he's saying is, no, they're flying these people in. Like, we're just grabbing people from Venezuela or Colombia or whatever, and we're flying them in, and we're flying them into, like, blue cities, right? Democrat cities. And we're the illegal immigrants, and we're just immediately giving them voter registration and making them citizens or something. Which isn't how we don't get to, cities can't do that. Only the feds can do that.
Well, they're making it sound like this process has suddenly been like rushed so it can just like happen overnight. I can tell you it doesn't. I know people who have gone through the citizenship stuff, and it
5
takes
years.
Time.
5
Quite
years
a bit of
minimum,
it at that.
5 years minimum. The other thing about it,
so
too,
people aren't crossing the border on Tuesday and having their like voters registration by Thursday. This is not what's happening.
No, none of this is going on. This is all just racist. This is a racist conspiracy theory, and of course when they do this, they are doing this. Well, who's they? It's the Democrats and the Jews. That's what it is.
And notice
it
they're not showing us images of Scandinavians they're trying to keep out of the United States.
Right. It's always brown people.
Yes.
It's a Norwegian
They're not like,
invasion.
oh no, look at those Europeans and Canadians trying to get into the United States.
Right.
They're not like, oh no, keep out the Canadians.
Right.
That's not what's happening.
Oh no, they're coming in. Pretty soon
They're leaving all their free health care to come over here.
Pretty soon everybody in your neighborhood's going to be blonde and saying Schmorgity Borgy Borg. I mean...
We do not say that. That's racist.
Yeah, it is. It's really funny racism. But no, it's just they're struggling to get anything to stick, and nothing's sticking. So they're pulling back all the old shit, all the old racist stuff. So I just thought that was funny because it's like they were really blatant about it. They're just flying them in, and they're making it in real time, giving them voting registration or some shit. Here you go, Juan and Maria. Here's a voter registration card. You just got here from Venezuela on a plane that we paid for, first class. I mean,
right? There's a Democrat waiting at the illegal entry points with voters registration cards, passing them out, saying,
right.
"Oh, you look brown and illegal. Could you please fill this out?"
Well, what's funny?
Can we just throw out there for one point? Quite frankly, that would really probably help out the Republicans more than it would the Democrats.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the point I was going to make, is that most of these countries like Mexico, Cuba, Venezuela, Colombia, mostly Catholic, Spanish Catholic countries. So they're already fairly conservative historically, traditionally, but also you got to remember a lot of these people come from countries where they are under dictators who call themselves communists and socialists and leftists when they're not. They're total right-wing fascists. But these people think that that's what communism and socialism is. So when they come to this country, they instantly hate the liberals because they think that's what we want. Not realizing that, no, we don't want a dictator. We want fucking democracy. But they think that. And so the Republicans and even George W. Bush realized this, and they tried for a while. They realized, look, we could get the entire Hispanic vote. The Republicans could. Because they're mostly lean conservative anyway. But all we got to do is get the racist part of the Republican Party that doesn't like brown people to shut the fuck up. And they couldn't do that. And what happened? Trump leaned all in on the white nationalist shit. So they hate them. Even though they're politically fairly aligned. I mean, they could have them as voters if they could just tone down the racism, but they can't do it.
Yeah, like they really need to rethink this whole thing.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, A, that the whole theory doesn't even make any sense, but B, even in some crazy hypothetical world where their thing would be happening, they would be the ones who would be more likely to benefit from it, you know?
Absolutely. And they've talked about it for decades now. We could get the Hispanic vote. Just like the Democrats have the Asian and the black vote for the most part locked up, we could get the Hispanic vote, but we got it. But the problem is half our party is fucking racist. So we can't have these people in the same room. Like, when have you ever seen a Republican photo op that was a mix of people? It's always white people. I mean, that's why Trump rallies, they go find the one or two black people or Hispanic people they can and stick him right behind him. See, we're diverse. I mean, it just kills me. It reminds me of, oh God, I wish I could pull that clip up. I just thought of it. It was a couple years ago with the libertarians, who are also kind of right wing. It was one of their conventions, and this guy went, and he was the only black guy at the convention, and he went because his friend is a libertarian, invited him, and the whole time he was at the convention, he made a big joke about this. Everybody kept running up to him and taking photos with him, because they went, look, see, we have black people in the Libertarian Party. And it was the one black guy who went, and there were like 200 photos of him with other people that he'd never met before, taking photos just because he was black, and they wanted to say they had a black guy in the Libertarian Party.
Gosh, it makes me think about in the 90s when the tourists would come to downtown Portland and they'd see their first drag queen, and everyone's rushing to take a picture with them or something. You know?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Is like the Republicans are freaking out about the trans stuff, but everybody freaks out about it. And it's like, we grew up in Portland. They were everywhere. I mean, they were like, it was a safe haven for them. So yeah, and we knew them. They never hurt anybody. I mean, they don't want to scuff their heels. They're not fucking robbing you, doing anything horrible.
No.
Ruin their makeup. Jesus, what the hell? So, moving on. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz did an interview. The Republicans have been whining about she doesn't do interviews. She talks to the press a lot, but she hasn't done a formal interview yet. And partly because why? She's already winning. Why does she need to go on and get berated by reporters and potentially blow her lead because she says something stupid, right? So it doesn't make sense, right? So she finally did do an interview with Dana Bash. And Dana Bash basically just asked her a bunch of Republican MAGA talking points. And Kamala's having a hard time through the interview where she's trying not to this is stupid. All these questions are stupid. But she answered them. She did a pretty good job. We'll watch a couple clips from it. But this was an interview with Tim Walz that she did for Dana Bash. So this is Dana Bash.
Economy. You are well aware that right now many Americans are struggling. There's a crisis of affordability. Yeah. One of your campaign themes is we're not going back. But I wonder what you say to voters who do want to go back when it comes to the economy specifically, because their groceries were less expensive, housing was more affordable when Donald Trump was president.
Well, let's start with the fact that when Joe Biden and I came in office, during the height of a pandemic, we saw over 10 million jobs were lost. People, literally, we were all tracking the numbers. Hundreds of people a day were dying because of COVID. The economy had crashed. In large part, all of that because of mismanagement by Donald Trump of that crisis. When we came in, our highest priority was to do what we could to rescue America. And today, we know that we have inflation at under 3%. A lot of our policies have led to the reality that America recovered faster than any wealthy nation around the world. But you are right. Prices, in particular for groceries, are still too high. The American people know it, I know it. Which is why my agenda includes what we need to do to bring down the price of groceries. For example, dealing with an issue like price gouging. What we need to do to extend the child tax credit to help young families be able to take care of their children in their most formative years. What we need to do to bring down the cost of housing. My proposal includes what would be a tax credit of $25,000 for first-time home buyers, so they can just have enough to put a down payment on a home, which is part of the American dream and their aspiration, but do it in a way that allows them to actually get on the path to achieving that goal and that dream.
So
I get the down.
So I wanna get into that, because that was just a stellar answer to kind of a stupid question.
Right.
First of all,
Right.
things were cheaper under Obama. It's called inflation. Shit goes up, and furthermore, inflation was caused by price gouging, partly in supply issues, partly from the pandemic. So she's got a good point. I'd have gone a little differently too. I'd have said, look at it like this: last 50 years, 45 years, Reagan. Massive recession. Bush Sr., massive recession. Clinton, surplus. No recession. Bush, 2 recessions. One of them was the Great Recession. Obama pulled us out of the Great Recession. No recession for 8 years. We had growth. It was slow, but it was still decent growth. Trump inherited a pretty good growing economy. Didn't deal with COVID properly, tanked the whole economy. We inherited a tanked economy. Now, what are we looking at? Inflation's down to 3% again. Right? Unemployment's at record lows. Stock markets, record highs over and over and over and over again. Right? But you're right, we got issues. So what are the issues? Then she pivots to, well, let me tell you how I'm going to do better. Right? We're going to do things like stop price gouging by putting price caps. States already do that. Why don't we have a federal one? Kind of makes sense. Right? Federal price caps. That way, if they start gouging prices again, we can sue them federally.
Right.
Right? Reinstitute the child tax credit. That got killed by Republicans and Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema. Right? But that was $3,600 a year of a tax credit. Now, what you understand, there's a difference between a tax deduction and a tax credit. A tax deduction is something I don't have to pay tax on. A tax credit is just money given to you by the government. And it goes to pay your taxes first if you have back taxes, but if you don't have back taxes, that's just cash they give you. And that was $3,600. That's $300 a month for parents with children, small children, to help them out. And when we did do that during the pandemic, or post-pandemic, we reduced child poverty by like over half. Like 20 million children were brought out of poverty instantly by doing that. And then they withdrew that, and all those kids went right back into poverty and starvation. And it's disgusting that we're the most powerful country in the world and we have starving children in the tens of millions. How the fuck is that happening? I mean, that's one of those things where it should be priority one. I mean, why is that even a thing? I think that's a great point. I think she brings up another good point about this $25,000 tax credit for a first-time home purchase. That's a down payment on a house. And she's willing to give you a tax credit, which means she's willing to give you money from the federal government to put a down payment on. I mean, that solves the problem for a lot of people. That makes houses affordable if you can take $25,000 right off the top of the price.
Absolutely.
And then, like we saw in the earlier, but student loan debt forgiveness, and we've covered that multiple times. And people say, well, who's going to pay for that? Well, you're already paying our student loans, even if you didn't go to school. Because the amount we pay back doesn't cover all the costs and fees of having to reclaim those loans and service those loans. So in fact, the amount of money, like if I borrowed $100,000, I'll probably end up paying back, 150 or 200,000 over the course of that, because I'm never going to quite hit the interest. But if you factor in when inflation and everything, what ends up happening with the cost and the service fees and all that other shit that goes on top of it, what it really cost the government was about $250,000 or $300,000. So you, the taxpayer, are covering all that extra shit. So you're already paying for my student loans, and you're not helping me out. So why not forgive them? That's a lot of why they're saying that. That's a lot of why they're pushing that idea of just forgive them. Because it pulls all these people out of debt. Now they don't owe this money on student loans. Now they have to spend. More money being spent in the economy? Heaven forbid. Right? People buy houses and cars and shit. So, I mean, it's all good stuff. And she pivoted really well. And she basically laid out a good sense of what kind of policy she's looking at doing. And it's a lot of the domestic policy is geared towards let's grow out the lower middle class. Make things easier on them. And so she did a great job in this interview. And I think it kind of pissed everybody off. That's, the Republicans and Fox News and all those people.
And can we also add, she did something that frequently doesn't happen in politics. She answered the question.
Yeah, pretty succinctly.
Well, it was a good answer, but she even answered it all.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They don't particularly like to answer questions a lot. They dodge a lot of them. This was kind of a stupid question, arguably, right?
Right.
And to begin with, but she A, answered it, and B, in a very clear way that made a lot of sense.
Right.
She did well.
So this is the thing you see sometimes, the press, Fox News especially, is the worst at this. I mean, they're the best at doing it. It's just a horrible way. They'll phrase the question in sort of a dishonest way. Right? Like, people want to go back to when things were cheaper like they were under Trump. And what she's ignoring about is, oh, you mean before Trump fucked up the pandemic and destroyed the economy? But she's putting it on Kamala. Well, no, it was cheaper under Trump, so that must be something you're doing. And she's trying to get her on the defensive. So instead of going on the defensive, what does she do? She says that, well, wait a minute, you mean after Trump fucked it up? Only she says it in a much nicer way. Well, you got to remember, when we got into office, it was a pandemic. And we hadn't done anything about it. It just metastasized. Hundreds of people were dying every day. And she's even undercutting that. It was thousands of people. But yeah, so I think she did a great job. We'll watch one more clip here. This was, I think, from the beginning of the interview.
Vice President, Governor Walz, thank you so much for sitting down with me and bringing the bus. The bus tour is well underway here in Georgia. You have less time to make your case to voters than any candidate in modern American history. The voters are really eager to hear what your plans are. If you are elected, what would you do on day one in the White House?
Well, there are a number of things. I will tell you, first and foremost, one of my highest priorities is to do what we can to support and strengthen the middle class. When I look at the aspirations, the goals, the ambitions of the American people, I think that people are ready for a new way forward, in a way that generations of Americans have been fueled by hope and by optimism. I think, sadly, in the last decade, we have had in the former president someone who has really been pushing an agenda and an environment that is about diminishing the character and the strength of who we are as Americans, really dividing our nation, and I think people are ready to turn the page on that.
So what would you do day one?
day one, it's going to be about, one, implementing my plan for what I call an opportunity economy. I've already laid out a number of proposals in that regard, which include what we're going to do to bring down the cost of everyday goods, what we're going to do to invest in America's small businesses, what we're going to do to invest in families, for example, extending the child tax credit to $6,000 for families for the first year of their child's life, to help them buy a car seat, to help them buy baby clothes, a crib. There's the work that we're going to do that is about investing in the American family around affordable housing, a big issue in our country right now. So there are a number of things on day one.
What about you?
Well, I kind of like, she didn't directly answer right away, because it's like, what are you going to do day one? Well, I mean, it's kind of a weird question. They get asked it a lot, but it's like, well, day one, I'm going to try and implement my policies. Day one, really what I'm going to do is try and get, the curtains changed in the office.
Right.
Really.
Day one, you're probably going to, unpack your desk stuff and put it in the desk. Like, what? I mean,
Right.
What do you think you're doing?
I mean, the inauguration doesn't end till like 3 o'clock, so I mean, how much time do I have left in the day? I mean,
Shake some hands, eat dinner, go to bed, and
yeah.
you're up the next morning? I don't know.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, I mean, there's things, but she, like she said, it's the simple stuff that she's trying to do domestically. Child tax credit, increase that. Some of these things she can't do without Congress, so she can't do them on the first day, but she can start to push on them as much as she wants. But she can't really just release that kind of money. Congress is the only one who can do that. So it's also going to depend on how do the Democrats do overall, right, in the election cycle. So we'll see how that all goes. But I mean, I think she did a good job in the interview. I think it was pretty lame interview from Dana Bash. Asked her a lot of like MAGA talking point stuff, like, they're blaming you for Afghanistan stuff, but you were the border czar. There's no such thing as a border czar. I went to Venezuela and other countries and tried to expand our investments and business investments there so that people would be less likely to want to come to the U.S. from Venezuela because the country would be stronger. That's what she did. And so she got a lot of U.S. businesses to invest in those countries. And basically a lot of that was Biden didn't want to deal with it, so he just pawned it off on her. It's part of being vice president. I don't want to handle this, you deal with this shit. Right? So, anyway, interview went okay. I think she did a good, not a phenomenal job, but I'd give her a B. But Fox News was really pissed. And they've been really attacking her. They were mainly pissed because she can't do an interview by herself. She's got to have a man with her because she's too weak. Which is stupid because everybody does an interview with the VP, with their VP pick after the convention. That's tradition. Trump did it with J.D. Vance recently. He did it with Mike Pence. Biden did it with Kamala Harris. Obama did it with Joe Biden. Mitt Romney did it with Paul. Everybody does it. So they're making a bullshit thing again where she has to have him there. She can't do an interview alone. She's got to have a man with her. And it's like, no, this is pretty standard. But we got to make a big deal out of it because she's a woman and we got to be sexist because we got nothing else but racism and sexism. But here's I forget this woman's name, Dagan something. She's a nutbag, but here's her just ranting about bullshit for no reason. Get the volume up here.
That she's the one who dug the financial hole that we're in. But to Kennedy's point, if she was to be the first woman running the United States of America, and she needs a man as a crutch, as a truss, as a neck pillow, as a seat cushion, because she can't get up there by herself, that she needs that guy to make her seem more likable or a little bit more coherent, to seem, marginally capable.
She's not saying anything.
This this is also, I have to point out, just outright sexism. And yeah, women are guilty of doing it too, because just as you pointed out, traditionally, this is something that happens. They do those dual interviews after the convention, etc.
Always.
Nobody wants to point out and weaken a man who has the other man next to him, but because she's a woman and she does the same thing, it only shows that she's too weak.
Right.
I'm sorry, like that. The only point in pointing this out is because she's a woman, not because it's not a very typical normal thing to do.
No, once again, you're absolutely right. If she had a penis, we wouldn't have this conversation.
Nobody would care that she had him in this interview if she had the other style of plumbing.
Well, and the other thing about it, too, is we just watched clips of the interview. Tim Walz didn't hardly speak. Because nobody's there to really talk to him. He's the VP candidate. They're there to talk to the presidential candidate, which is Vice President Harris. So Tim Walz is mostly just there to, like, nod and be supportive. I mean, that's all he can do. And furthermore, if she brought in Tim Walz to make her seem likable by comparison, that was the wrong guy, because he's probably the most likable fucking vice presidential candidate that's ever walked the face of the earth. In fact, I like him more than I like Kamala Harris. I mean, I relate more to him in a lot of ways, but it's like, yeah, she brought him along because that's typically what you do for that first interview after the convention. You break the
right? Isn't it a part of like showing that you're unified? You know, both of you are on the same page, so we're showing up to this together, right? Isn't that the whole point of doing that?
Yeah, and there's a double bonus to it, which is kind of J.D. Vance is actually the most disliked VP candidate in the history of the United States since we've been taking polls. And Trump hasn't been seen with him since that interview that he did with him. J.D. Vance is on the road alone right now. And it's rumored that Trump might be dumping him for RFK Jr. if RFK Jr. looks like he might work out. Yeah. So, I mean...
I have not heard anything like that, really?
Yeah, RFK is touring with Trump now, and Vance is touring somewhere else on his own. That's what's going on right now. So...
Wow. Okay.
It'll be funny no matter what happens. If he sticks with Vance, if he goes with RFK, they're both losers. They're both really crazy, disliked people. But yeah, she's just really pissed about this for no apparent reason. But once again, it's just sexism. We'll play another few seconds of this because it's just crazy to me. Come on.
That is shameful. And I say that as a woman, and anybody who tweets at me that, Trump does interviews with Mike Pence and J.D. Vance. You know what? She has done nothing. She has said nothing since she was anointed the Democrat nominee. And that is beside the point. And you crying sexism by me saying this makes her look weaker. So...
What?
Well, that's what's so funny about that to me is she's trying to curb that off at the head, right? It's that whole, if you're going to say that this is me being sexist, well, that's just you being a dick, and she's even weaker.
But it's because you are being sexist.
But that's what's so funny.
She even supplies the evidence for how she's sexist by pointing out that the other men have historically done the same thing. She literally hands everybody the evidence that shows how sexist she is.
She makes the argument for us and then says, well...
Why on earth are you doing that?
She's trying to straw man it. It's the same thing like, okay, when J.D. Vance got up there and said, well, the liberals say that everything is racist. Well, he's trying to prime the pump there for, we're going to be extremely racist going forward. So we're just going to say that it's not that we're being racist, it's they're overreacting to it. Right?
Oh, my God.
It's like an abusive husband saying to his wife, I know you're going to say I'm abusive, but when I hit you, but, that's just you. It's like... That's exactly what they're doing. It's just... I mean, it's just pathetic. But it's like, what do they have to hit her on the interview? Nothing she said in the interview. Not how she conducted herself in the interview. Nothing like that. No, what is their target? What is the thing that pisses them off? That she had the VP pick next to her. That's it.
Well, besides, they have to alternate between being racist against her to being sexist against her. They can, they got to make sure they mix it up enough there.
Well, it's just the old adage. If you're arguing form over substance, you've already lost the debate. Right? If I'm arguing about the lighting in the hall as opposed to the actual topic of the debate, then I've already lost. Because I got nothing I have nothing to attack the substance on. So, yeah, it just cracks me up. But they got nothing. I just thought that was a good clip. She just cracked me up because she got so pissed about nothing. Furthermore, she's sitting next to a man while she's giving this screed. She can't do this on her own. She's got to have a man and her little girlfriends with her on a couch. She can't do this by herself.
And for those of you who might want to point out that on news shows, there's always a man there as an anchor anyway, I'm just going to tell you, right? The same argument she's giving.
Yep. If you call me sexist for saying that she's pathetic and weak and she needs a man, well, that's on you. That just makes her look weaker because we know that she's got an earpiece in and there's a man talking to her in the background, telling her what to say. It just cracks. That shit goes both ways. It just cracks me up. They never see it. But to move on to the kind of what we know about her policy situation, because they keep saying she doesn't have any policies. She hasn't really listed anything like in detail, but she said some things that make a lot of sense, and she said them repeatedly. So she's got these sort of promises. So CNN just kind of did a little clip here. Promises Kamala Harris has made so far in her campaign. Let me scroll down a little bit. Let me see if we can zoom that in a little bit so you guys can see it a little bit better. So in the economy, high prices. So she's talking about doing a price cap for gouging situations. So that's the thing, is cost of living. She wants to talk about introducing once again the child tax credit. She wants to up it to $6,000, which would be nice because that'd be $500 a month for parents with children under 1 year old. That would be a huge help to a lot of first-time parents. Taxes, so she's going to talk about using tax credits to provide relief to the middle class and lower-income Americans. Once again, child tax credit would be one of those. Her plan revives and extends temporary measures that Biden and congressional Democrats enacted in a major package when the party controlled Congress during the first 2 years in Biden's term. So just adding benefits to workers and people that pay income tax. Right? Housing, she'd mentioned that before, the $25,000. She's also going to do a 3-section plan aimed at addressing the shortage in housing, because that's part of what's driven up the cost, is there's not enough affordable housing going around. Healthcare, she's just going to push on drug costs mostly right now, is all she's talking about. And try to strengthen what is Obamacare and the ACA. Trying to get down consumer debt. So I don't know that she's proposed much on this other than she's talking about canceling medical debt that people have, which would be huge for a lot of people.
That would be so huge for so many people. I feel that I'm just, anecdotally thinking about clients. I've had a number of clients where their biggest issue with their credit and debt situation has come as a result of a big medical thing that they couldn't get out from under. I've had so many clients with those types of issues. And aside from that, their debt load otherwise is fairly manageable, but they just get crushed with this sort of medical thing that they can never seem to get out from under. So to put something into play that would keep people from having to declare bankruptcies or be perpetually in some hole just because of a medical issue would be huge.
Well, yeah, and as we've talked about before, medical debt is the number one reason for bankruptcy in the United States. So, and the thing about it too is, if you understand how it works, and we covered it a little bit before, when people can't pay their medical bills, the government covers it. This was under Reagan's old plan years ago, So you have to treat anybody who comes to the hospital, but if they can't cover the bill, then the government covers it for you. So the hospital doesn't go under. So you're already paying their medical tests. We might as well just fucking forgive it, so these people don't have to go into bankruptcy at the same time. Because then you got to pay for that shit.
Yeah. Why drag that individual through bankruptcy on top of it?
Well, yeah, and put them in even more safety net programs and more need for government assistance, so then it's costing us even more. Well, we didn't have to put them in that situation in the first place. I mean, it's really stupid the way it's done. But once again, she wants to reinstate Roe v. Wade, do more about climate change. Immigration, she's a little bit harsher on immigration than I would like. She would like to kind of shut down a lot of the border stuff. And she's basically kind of done the Israel-Hamas thing. She's basically taken Biden's position. And then Ukraine, I'm with her. She wants to help the Ukrainians win, which I think is a good idea. And then she's pretty right-wing when it comes to police and police funding. So nothing real exciting or sexy here. I mean, she doesn't really, tease me too much, but she's got a lot of good basic policies that we were doing before, and she just wants to continue them. And she wants to expand a couple of them, like housing.
Right.
But she's really not doing anything all that sexy here. This is kind of the whole thing with Hillary's campaign, and people are like, why are you voting for Hillary? And I'm like, because it'll be 8 years and nothing. Do I like Hillary? Is she my favorite choice? No, but it'll be 8 years of just steady economic growth and nothing else going on. And
which compared to the drama that some people have brought into the lives of America, 8 years of a little boring. Not gonna lie, I've been enjoying the hell out of these Biden years because it's not been constant drama.
Right. Well, we used to do that joke where it's like we were like who's the current Secretary of Education? Nobody fucking knows. Nobody knows. I shouldn't need to know that. But under Trump, I knew everything there was about Betsy DeVos because she was basically trying to destroy the education programs in this country. I knew how she owned 20-something yachts. She had a yacht manager. I mean, I knew more about that woman than I ever want. I should not need to know who the Secretary of Education is.
Yeah,
Let alone what her financial portfolio.
Your average person should not. You know what? I'm a teacher, and I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm a teacher, and I don't remember who the current Secretary of Education is.
I can't remember either.
I do not. And I'm a teacher, and I don't remember who that is right now. But boy, when it was her, I was very aware of her.
Well, that's the thing is that's the kind of job where if you're doing it right, we don't know who you are. But if you're totally fucking it up, we know who you are. Right.
True. Yeah.
Like who's the Treasury Secretary in your state? You wouldn't know unless there was some huge scandal or some awful thing went wrong. As long as they're doing their job, you have no clue who that is.
Right.
I mean, so that just to give you a sense. But yeah, I mean, nothing real exciting going on with her on that front. But I'm all for it. I mean, I think it's a good deal. So let's go into this. So let's close out. Let's do some clips. I wanted to do this one because this was so funny. So Tim Walz recently spoke at the IAFF. This is the Federal Firefighters Union. The big one, the big national one, sorry. And so he spoke, did a great job. I'm just going to play a real quick clip of this. But yeah, Tim Walz spoke at the firefighters.
You're counting on what was delivered. When Donald Trump was president, he blocked overtime benefits for millions of workers. He opposed efforts to raise the minimum wage, and he even proposed slashing budgets for federal fire service programs. Those are just simply facts.
And then Governor Walz...
just great hit points. Bam, bam, bam. He tried to take money out of your pocket, cut your overtime, cut you getting pay raises, cut your budget. Make it less safe for you. I mean, really smart. Just blam, blam, blam. This is how he fucked you. We're not going to do any of that. We're going to do the reverse of that. Good move. Good move, right? And he did it. He crushed it.
Listen, that's what I'm interested in hearing with regards to my own job. So that sounds like that would go over well.
Yeah.
Oh, let's see. Let's see how J.D. Vance won their hearts.
J.D. Vance was there a week earlier. This is what happened. This is really funny. So this is J.D. Vance a week earlier. Same union.
Now, President Trump and I are proud to be the most pro-worker Republican ticket in history, and I want to talk about why we're fighting for working people, why we're going to fight for unions and non-union alike. Now, our enemies and a lot of Democrats call us populists, like it's something of an insult. But if being a populist means being on the side of working people rather than the powerful elites who hollowed out our middle class and sent us into stupid foreign wars, then sign me up. I am a populist, and I'm proud of it.
No applause, hardly.
Now, for decades, unions have given support to Democrat candidates without giving Republicans much consideration, and I'm not here to judge you or to blame you or to criticize you. I am here to tell you that it's a different world now. You may have noticed that Donald Trump is not exactly like Mitt Romney or some of the Republicans of the past. He is a different kind of Republican. And under his leadership, the Republican Party is the party of the American worker.
So he got booed a little bit there, and all he just this is literally the whole speech. I watched the whole thing. We are here for the worker. We're here for you. We care about the worker. Blah blah blah. Little boos, little like golf claps. It was just.
But he doesn't say anything that they want to do for the worker or recognize what has not been going well for them. Like there's no substance to that.
Right. It's like.
Like, do you know what's going wrong for them?
Right. It's like that whole bit. Was it Jerry Maguire? And he's the sports agent. It's I love you, I'm all about you, I'm everything, and da-da-da-da-da, and then as soon as you hang up the phone, it's like, fuck that guy. Move on to the next thing. They promise you the world, but then as soon as you're off the phone, they're on to the next thing. It's the same shit here. I'm all about you, I love you, baby.
It's like that guy on prom night just trying to...
Trying to get in your pants?
Yeah, yep.
No, we'll be together
That's exactly
forever.
what that sounded like. We're gonna be together forever.
It's the old, was it Diane Weiss did that joke? Was it, yeah, they all say they love you and that they'll stay with you forever, and then they come.
I was trying to make that point to maybe a little less direct, but yes.
I'm just quoting Diane Weiss. Just.
Okay. All right.
I'm the victim here.
Oh, look.
So.
Our favorite person, I see.
Yeah, we'll get into that in just a second here. But J.D. Vance didn't do so well. He got booed a lot at that. It was pretty sad. But Tim Walz went in there and crushed it by basically saying, hey, this is how Trump fucked you before. We're not doing it. We're going to do all this. Simple. One guy got up there, I'm with you. The other guy, like, let me tell you what I'm going to do for you. Which guy would you buy the car from?
What Tim Walz did well,
mm-hmm.
I mean, and hopefully it's all very real and authentic, but even if it's a load of bullshit, what he did well is he went in there and he was able to state, here are things that have not been going well for you.
Right.
So it at least sounds as though he has some idea of what they've been up against, whether he really does or not, right?
Right.
But J.D. Vance went in there and all he said was, we're here for you, we're here for you, we're here for you. But he doesn't define any of the terms of what that means at all.
Or what they're going to do.
So,
because they don't have any
what are you going to do, or what's been going wrong for me? Either side of that coin would make me at least feel like you have some clue what I'm dealing with. But
that's right.
That didn't happen. He missed an opportunity, and that was a big opportunity. He could have shown up and presented the Republican Party like they were tuned in to what this group has been facing.
Well, it's
but
funny
he missed
too,
the opportunity.
He even acknowledged, you guys never supported us before because we've always been against you, but it's changed. I'm not going to tell you how it's changed. And of course, The audience is going to sit there and go, well,
And
what
that
have
was
you
an
done
opportunity.
what have you done for me lately? Nothing.
Right.
You guys tried to cut our pay and benefits. What the fuck are you talking about? Well, yeah, so JD Vance not doing well, but Tim Walz is crushing it. I just thought that was a funny side-by-side. One guy got booed, the other guy got, standing ovation. Anyway, so, let's move on to this. So, somebody we need to talk about, because we haven't talked about in a while. Because that hasn't been a lot of stuff since her traffic situation, her criminal stuff, and her divorce, and groping a guy at a movie theater. But Lauren Boebert
Lauren Boebert.
So she's doing her debate tomorrow against she won the primary. She's doing her debate tomorrow against the Democratic challenger in District 4, which is a pretty Republican district. But the Democratic challenger is actually nipping at her heels pretty closely in the polls. And we'll look at those in a second. But things are it's going to be kind of a struggle here for Lauren Boebert. But this woman just did a big buy ad in Colorado, because she got a ton of money because she's running against Boebert. And this is her ad, and it is freaking hilarious. So this is her ad against Lauren Boebert.
Is Lauren Boebert vaping?
On November 5th, your worst nightmare tries to claw her way back to Congress. Don't say her name.
Boebert, the congresswoman was kicked out of the theater for being disruptive.
Congresswoman Boebert, I know you're new to the district, and you clearly don't know how to act in a theater or in Congress. I think I can help. Let's get together for a debate on TV. I'll tell you what keeps your new neighbors up at night. It shouldn't be whatever this is. I know the last time you were arguing in a theater, it was with workers. And hey, maybe you won't get kicked out this time. You're not scared, are you?
I love that so much. That is so funny. Oh my God, that's so funny.
So she's running this ad because in the 4th district, because a lot of people don't pay attention to politics, Lauren Boebert's running, they're just going to vote for the Republican. But it's a small district, population-wise. I mean, land-wise, it's pretty big. But small district population-wise. A lot of them, when they interviewed these people and went and polled, they didn't know about the Beetlejuice thing. They didn't know about her criminal shit. They didn't know she was a high school dropout. They didn't know any of this shit about her. And so Calverse, who's the woman Tricia here, who's running against her, has just been hammering that this woman is a joke nationally. If you guys elect her, she had to run away from her last district because she was such a big joke. She was losing. So if you guys elect her, she's just going to humiliate you. And you guys are going to look like a bunch of idiots because you didn't know. So she's been pushing that real hard. And now she's debating her September 3rd, tomorrow night. It's going to be Tricia versus Boebert.
Man.
And she has snarky bitch mean girl energy that just it's almost delightful. The way she does it.
I'm normally not into that snarky mean girl whatever thing, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm very entertained by this one.
Oh, well, because she does it in this funny kind of way, where it's just playful. You guys didn't know this. She's got the whole Beetlejuice theme with the white suit and she got the popcorn bag with the black and white stripes and everything. I mean, she really hammered it home. It was really funny. So yeah.
Wow.
So this is the article. So she's going to debate her tomorrow. So she's trying to prepare for the debate. Tricia Calverse, I butchered her name. Tricia Calverse. September 3rd, the Club Ravenna. So the big joke is, last time you were in the theater, Lauren, you got kicked out for feeling up a guy and vaping. Now you're in the theater. Hopefully you'll be able to stay through the end. So she pulled in, Calverse also notably managed to pull in $750,000 in the month following her win for the nomination. The 4th district is considered by many pollsters to be safe for Republicans, but Calverse, who was raised in the district, believes that she may have created a path to victory with her impressive fundraising haul Internal polls are showing her within striking distance of Boebert. In a statement, Boebert's campaign said she is looking forward to discussing a proven track record as a strong legislator for small businesses. She's passed one bill in the entire time she's been in Congress. And it was a bill that everybody had already supported. It wasn't anything big. And then she spent a lot of time. So here's Trisha's been trolling her. So this is on Twitter. Trisha wrote, Boebert raised gobs of money in Colorado 03, telling people she was going to have their backs over there. Then she took their money and carpet-bagged her way over here, hoping to pull the wool over our eyes. Let's make sure she knows we have her number and we won't stand for grift in. Let's see. She's got her little working one. She's been doing a good job. Under Trump's America, the free, home of the brave. Under Kamala, America, the broke, home of the gender, mutilated, and confused. That's Lauren's response to these things. I mean, she's just... So this woman's been doing a really good job of just trolling her and pushing back on the fact that everything Lauren Boebert says is something Biden did that she voted against. All the money she brought into District 3, she voted against it. It was all part of Build Back Better and the Infrastructure Act. So, I mean, yeah. So the fact of the matter is here you have a Democrat in a bright red district. And she's from there. She's born there. And she's in striking distance from Boebert. And I think she's got that sort of Midwestern bitch mentality, character going on. And she does it in a very playful way that she might actually have a shot here. I mean,
you know what?
It'd be funny.
I don't know if she's got a shot or not, given what that district is, but I gotta say, I love that she's going for broke, man. She's going to give her a run for her money to the best of her ability. Yep.
We're going to have fun with that one. Honestly, it's like, okay, if Boebert wins, I was like, yeah, it's okay. At least we can still make fun of her. She doesn't really do anything. She's kind of dead weight in Congress anyway, so she doesn't really hurt anything in a red district. But if this other woman wins, I'm going to get really excited because she might be an incredible smartass in Congress. And troll if she's trolling her that hard, fucking...
Oh my goodness, what if she wins and then we can be, instead of covering Boebert, we can cover stuff on her. It could be funny too.
I think
it could be funny in a little more our direction. I'm not going to lie, I'm into it.
Yeah, could be funny. But yeah, she does. She does have that sort of snarky mean girl thing going, but she does it in a way that's fun. So, and especially when you're picking on somebody, she's not punching down, which is why she can get away with that.
Right.
She's punching up to somebody who's already in Congress. So, I'm hoping she'll win, but we'll see how it goes. But anyway, that was our show for today. And to end on that high note, we'll let you know how the debate goes next week. I'll watch it.
Absolutely. You'll see the highlights from us here.
There you go. Well, everywhere, where can everybody catch you, Lacey?
As always, you can catch me at mysensewithsense.com. You can find information about courses, workshops that I do, and read articles by me. If you have any questions about any of those things, or you have clips to send us, or you want to invite us on, or you have a union worker from Fred Meyer in your back pocket to send us,
come on the show.
You can email us and bring them on down. Where do they email us, Duncan?
You can email us at gossipfinance@outlook.com. It's down below. Just click on it. Send us your stuff. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you guys next time.